Hello, everybody. I'm Pearlo Wisdom, and you're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom, as it says in the show. And I'm going to do a live betting stream for you. Let me get you down here. Where we look at the 3 games for January 31st. Interesting, actually very, very, very interesting game. So it's going to be a lot of fun looking at who would win and who wouldn't in these games. I'm going to try to get my window capture going here. All right, there we go. And we'll look at these games. First of all, of course, we got to talk about the trade. The trade that just happened. We got to talk about it, right? Let me find you on here. There we go. Okay, so that we found you on here. All right, the trade. Bo Horvat for Beauvillier, Ratu, and a first-round pick. And I hear a lot of people saying that Vancouver didn't get a very good return for this. I don't know. Aatu Ratu is a kind of guy that, let's just say, organizations don't like. He's a kind of happy-go-lucky, doesn't take things all that serious type player with a lot of skill that has a lot of interests. And Vancouver is perfect for those type of guys. They had a guy named Pavel Bure who was exactly like that. And they handled it very well. Pavel Bure had a lot of other things he was going. He would be late to practice some of the times and all that kind of stuff like that. But talent, he had. Ratu, talent, he has. If you're looking for a guy to hate the opposition, Aatu Ratu's not your guy. He's just not going to be it. But if you're looking for a guy with a lot of talent that can play the game, fine. And you can work with that to become as good as he can be. And I think Vancouver is a good spot for him for that. First round pick. Okay, now we got to discuss how much better are the Islanders with Horvat. And that is interesting because his analytics would suggest that he's a below-average defensive player that's having a career year. So, okay, he's a below-average defensive player for the Vancouver Canucks, who the forwards have to play defense all the time. Like, they have to play for their defense all the time. And their defense is absolutely porous. When I first looked at the analytics on this, I have to admit, I thought, I'm not so sure about what the Islanders are doing here. But when you put Horvat in a position that he's in with the Islanders, who have a system that is predicated around the defense getting the puck first and moving it out and do it well, could that get better? I think it could. I have to admit, I went out and said that the Islanders could have lost the trade. But I think Horvat could be better as an Islander as he is a Vancouver Canuck. So I wanted to get into that first before I got into the picks here. As far as the picks are concerned, last night I had Winnipeg Jets in regulation and under 6.5. I got it at 6.5. So we hit them both, and that was good. I didn't have a lot on it because I wasn't confident about either one of those teams, but I did believe that St. Louis is pretty much packed it in. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that they consciously have decided that they don't give a shit. It's just that there's so much turmoil in St. Louis right now. It's quite obvious that O'Reilly is not going to be coming back. Tarasenko won't be coming back. They gave long-term contracts to young players and don't even seem interested in giving contracts to those two guys. That creates a really tough environment in a room where you have veterans that have won cups and don't want to leave. They got families. They don't want to leave. It feels shitty to be thrown aside after doing everything you did for an organization. And honestly, the young players are kind of like, yeah, I get you. I just signed a long contract with this organization. Are they going to stay loyal with me? And O'Reilly's like, doesn't seem so. Doesn't seem so. No. Tarasenko is a little different. He's had issues with the organization for a long time. A lot to do with the way they medically treated him with injuries that he had and stuff like that. And he stayed very patient, honestly. He's 33 years old and he's a 30-some goal scorer. If I'm out there looking for a winger that can score, I mean, I got to respect his patience with this organization, honestly. I don't know what happened in the whole situation, but the fact that he had this disagreement and he didn't stand his ground and not play and all of that kind of stuff like that, I think in the long term it's going to bring value. And it's value to have a guy like Tarasenko, who is a great, great winger. So that's what I got to say about that. But for now, it's a wait and see. Horvat's overall numbers throughout his career are nothing like they are right now. They were offering him a contract based on his overall numbers. He was looking for a contract based on his now numbers. And I think that had a lot to do with him. If you listen to Horvat throughout his career, he kept on saying we have to be better defensively. He didn't say the organization has to get better defensemen. But in a way, I think that's exactly what he was saying, and he would be right. So he could be a way better player on the island, and I'm going to wait and see on this before I actually say whatever. But all I do know is the Islanders basically gave up. They have no depth in their organization already, and now they have seriously no depth. And they grab Horvat. So they're putting it all in for him. Interesting thing. Okay, LA versus Carolina, January 23rd. LA is at minus 244 money line. LA is at plus 65 money line. Let me tell you right off the bat, the value is on LA here. Okay, but I can't do it. I can't do it. If you look at the values on LA, $1.65, LA is a pretty good team. You know, they're a solid team. In fact, I would go as far as to say is overall in their forward depth that they are equal to Carolina as far as depth is concerned. I give Carolina the defense, but goaltending, forget about it. And that's the reason why I can't go LA. They've also been on the road for a hell of a long time. They played Philly. They played Florida. They lost to Tampa Bay. Wait 2 days, and now they're playing LA. This is their 4th game on a road trip. Right? I want to say that. Yeah. 4 games in 6 nights. And they're going to be off for like 11 games after this. They're in a playoff spot fairly firmly. I mean, they really kind of need to win, but it's not like desperate that they win this game. And they're at home to Carolina. The Carolina that is, we'll take a look at this. (16-5-2) at home. Now, LA's got a good away record. I'll give them that. Carolina doesn't really have the best. It's not the best scheduling spot in the world either, but they're coming off a loss, I believe. Hello, whoever just came in. Thanks for coming in. Not this week. I don't want this week. That week. Carolina. Really not that bad of a schedule. They beat Boston. The narrative will be that they had a big game up against Boston. Now they're playing LA, and it's kind of like, all right, if we lose this game, and there's merit to that. There is merit to that. And I would give that more merit if LA wasn't playing so much the last little while on the road the whole time. I got to give the edge to Carolina. I'm going to go in regulation. And Carolina has been playing to the over, besides Boston, who I took as an under, which kind of barely made it for several games now. I kind of like the over here. I kind of like the narrative that Carolina is going to come out and give their fans something exciting before the All-Star break. I don't think they're going to play a defensive trap game here. I think, especially with LA having problems with goaltending, Anderson is playing as well as they can. I think that they have a feeling that they can go out and kind of run and gun it with LA here. And if they lose, they lose. I do agree with that. But because they are on a high going in and they're wanting to make their fans happy, I think they win the game. I wouldn't go -1.5, but I think in the end of the day, they do win the game. I wouldn't go money line because you can't get value on that. In regulation seems plausible to me. Also, I'll go a little bit further and say that both of these teams play to the over on the second period against each other a lot. Carolina generally doesn't play to the over on the second period. But I have a feeling this one will start off tight and it'll loosen up as they go. I would give a little bit to the second period over there. All right. Next game. Washington versus Columbus. Columbus is in a terrible spot. They're coming off of a Western road trip. We'll take a look at that right now. Columbus just played Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Seattle. And they flew home and now are going to play at home against a Washington Capitals team that needs a win real bad. I mean, pretty bad. Bad enough. They're not in a playoff spot. Or barely in a playoff spot, I should say. Washington, I believe, is coming off a huge loss to Toronto. They are not going to be taking this game lightly. You can say, well, it's an overlooked spot because they're going to the All-Star game. That's about the only lean I can give to Columbus here. Washington's a better team. Columbus is in a terrible spot. I think they feel kind of defeated. They're going to try to play well against Washington, of course, but they don't have a team that really can beat them if they're trying hard enough. If Washington is working to get their 2 points, and they should be, often I would give Columbus a game here in this spot, simply because Washington was the type of team before, historically, that would just before a break give a flubber. But I'll tell you what, if they give a flubber here, they're not making the playoffs. They're not. I'll say that right now. If Washington loses this game, they don't have a chance to make the playoffs. Because that would mean that they are actually looking ahead in a game where they're only 3 points ahead of the Islanders for the spot that they're in. Now, I guess you can say Philadelphia is pretty much out of it. They're almost assured of a playoff spot. Yeah. Possibly. But if they really want any chance, do you want to play Carolina or Boston in the first round with this kind of a team? My lean is that Washington's going to want to win this game. Anybody that wants to win a game against Columbus will win a game against Columbus. As far as goaltending, you got Korpisalo in, and this is what worries me a tad. They're putting Charlie Lindgren in. That worries me a tad. Because that's a message that this game doesn't matter. I'm actually not as high on this game as I thought I was. It's a terrible message. Kemper should be in here. You need this game. You need this game. As far as the total is concerned, now that I'm saying all this, I might lean to the over. Because this could be like a back and forth type game. They could. It feels like Washington will kind of go into this going, we got it. Columbus will score. But over 6.5. Yeah, I still like the over. I like the over in that game. I might like the over better than anything. Interesting game. Ottawa versus Montreal. I don't like Ottawa at minus 180. Montreal, it's their last hurrah before they go into. They're going to be playing hard here. Ottawa just beat them 5-0. I would throw a little bit on Montreal at 162. Their roster sucks, but they could very well be playing hard enough to win this game. Almost look to the draw. Let's go the draw. Ottawa, Montreal draw. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. As far as the over-under, at 6, it's going to be Forsberg against Allen. It's probably the number right there. I don't really like this game at all. Montreal plus 1.5 is minus 160. We'll go draw. Okay. That is my full 42. I thought I would just come on and give you all just a bit of frolic before we go to the All-Star break. We got one more game tomorrow. But I think we got one more game tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be on, but I thought I would throw this out to you now. So you got my picks. Go over to bpalpicks.com to get my picks every day. I'm up 53 units in the past 8 days. There is no way you're losing money with BPAL. No way. If you're none, it is impossible. Well, if you're betting like one game for all your rent money or something like that, but long term, you make huge with BPAL. Up 600 units last year, 150 units this year. If you're not in BPAL, you just don't like money.